Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Beres here on a Wednesday. We have a very interesting program today. I'm going to be asking you first, are you prepared for a disaster? Now, hold on. This is not one of those, all right, do you have bottled water in the basement type shows, okay? This is more about the type of catastrophic disaster, the type of things that some people fear could come in 2012. And I'm not talking about folks who are just out there paranoid, but we know about the Mayan calendar and when it supposedly ends. We know what Nostradamus predicted, okay? We see, around the world, things happening every year from disasters like tornadoes, earthquakes, and the like. What if you were in a situation? How prepared are you if you can no longer stay at where you're living now? Or perhaps the world's economy collapses and your bank account and money is not there. What do you do? Questions like that. What type of insurance policy do you have if the insurance you're paying for right now through some agency no longer is there? What can you do? That's kind of the topic of a conversation today and a unique idea that's in the works here for Tennessee called New Camelot. We're going to talk about it this morning with the founder and visionary of this concept that is in the works as we speak, David Rahm. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Nick. Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you. I like it when I have a guest come on like you and I'm kind of pitching it at the beginning on the one camera and you're sitting there nodding your head with me. And that means I think I touched on kind of the things that people are thinking about when it comes to, now are you talking, well first, I should say that David is a well-known local sculptor here. You live right here in downtown Nashville.
I'm less than 5 minutes from the studio. I live here in downtown Nashville.
You love Nashville, and you hope you will live here for years to come.
That is true. I love living in the city. I love all the amenities that a wonderful town like Nashville offers.
Sure.
I love to be able to drive 2 minutes to a fabulous restaurant. I hope I always have a chance to stay and live in the city.
So, your concerns, you heard me talk about people thinking about disasters coming and the like. Now, Nashville's seen it shared. I mean, you go back several years, we had a tornado hit Nashville. Of course, we had the horrible floods, the May floods. But what are you talking about here when we think about insurance policy for what? The end of the world?
Well, it's a whole new kind of insurance that we're offering. Okay. And it's one that society has not seen the likes of before. I am offering physical, tangible, hands-on life insurance that can truly save your lives, your family's lives.
Your family. And tangibly, what you're talking about is a place to go, hopefully temporarily, if for some reason you have to leave your home here.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, and that's the problem. I'm a prepper. I'm not a survivalist in any way.
Okay.
And the difference is a prepper prepares for the worst, but they hope for the best.
Right.
And I do stock a supply of food for my family. I feel it's my responsibility to my family, in my opinion, to have adequate supplies for them in the event of a man-made or natural disaster. Pick any one you want. I'm really not partial to one or another.
Sure.
I see all the dark clouds, all these threats on the horizon, and when you add them all up, it's one very big, scary pile. So back to what I was saying, I've been storing supplies, dry store goods, medical supplies. But the problem is, you can only shelter in your home, and I'm in downtown Nashville, for as long as your supplies last. Say you only have 2 months worth of food. What are you going to do when the power's out and the pumps that pump the water to your faucet no longer work? Well, you can't stay anywhere more than 2 days without water. So unfortunately, no matter how well you think you are prepared at home, you really aren't. Eventually, you will have to leave your home in search of supplies to stay alive, food and water and all the basic necessities. And that's going to drive very good people out into the streets in almost a homeless state. And if everybody else is looking for supplies as well, it becomes a very dangerous place to be out on that street.
And you're talking about, again, we've been through some disasters. It would have to be the worst of the worst to some degree. I mean, you said name your disaster. If we had, it could be anything from, disease,
a pandemic,
horrible, storms, earthquakes, which we don't see too much of here, war, whatever, right?
A dirty bomb.
Anything like that.
A solar flare, EMP pulse. I'm really not partial to one or the other.
Okay.
If I had to choose, I would say an economic collapse.
Okay.
Is my biggest fear.
Well, you're talking about you can't get your money out of the bank.
Well, or we go to the bank and say you have $10,000 in the bank, and you go to the bank and it's only worth $4.
Yeah.
And
or the collapse of the computer system where you can't. Yeah. These are all things, and I want to be clear, and we should say that he has a website that's creating a bit of a buzz, which really is what kind of got our attention. And when I first saw it, the website's fairly well done, and we'll give out the web address where people can check on it. But I thought, all right, is this guy just some paranoid kook? All right, now, I think you are someone who has a real imagination. And I think you're someone, though, who is, having spent time with you, you mean this. And it's not some quick rich scheme or something like this. It's more you're concerned about what if one of these things that we've heard all along finally does happen.
Well, as a city dweller, I realize that the best way I can protect my family is to have not only supplies for them in the event of a disaster, but to isolate ourselves. You don't want to be around a lot of people. People are going to freak out when their cell phones don't work, their computers don't work, when they flick on the light switch, that doesn't work. When they go to Kroger to stock up on food and there's no food at the supermarkets.
Okay.
People are going to absolutely get desperate. Now, there's a lot of people that come and say to me, Dave, well, whatever comes, what may. If it's my time, it's my time. What I feel, though, is that they underestimate the natural will to survive. All right, and if they want to give up on themselves, that's okay. But if you have children, I'm sorry. I feel you're doing them an injustice by not preparing to at least ensure their survival.
That makes sense. All right, now, there's going to be some people out there, no matter what we say or what you say this morning, are going to say, well, I just don't buy it. I don't think I need that, and I'm not worried about something that bad happening, okay? On the other hand, there are going to be those who say, you know what, why not have this insurance? Now, let's talk about, you've got these concerns, and you've come up with a plan to address it, and it's called New Camelot.
NewCamelot.info.
Okay.
Instead of .com, the new thing is .info.
And this a concept you came up with where you were going to create a compound.
Yes. And the whole reason I built New Camelot, or the concept of New Camelot, was to keep myself and my family safe in the event of a man-made or natural disaster.
Okay.
Period. I'm going to be living there. My family's going to be living there. And what New Camelot is, essentially, it is a fortified, self-sustaining, emergency escape retreat.
Do you know what it seems like when you say it that way? It's for anticipation of any number of disasters, but kind of like a glorified tornado shelter, meaning that a tornado shelter, some people are building them just in their backyards, and that's to protect them just from a tornado. But you're coming up with hopefully what will be a temporary shelter, but I think it will have many more features than a typical tornado shelter, correct?
Many more features. Yes,
right.
It's quite elaborate. It truly is a castle. And it's made of shipping containers.
The kind of containers that you find on the back of a tractor trailer.
The big ones that come off the boats and the crane loads it down onto the back of the 18-wheelers.
And that's where it gets interesting. Okay, you're like, well, what does he have in mind here? He says castle. What we're talking about storage units. Again, it's temporary, but it's something that can be done quickly. We'll take a break, and keep in mind there are others out there that are already selling rooms in a missile silo for $900,000.
$900,000 for half a floor in a missile silo.
In the middle of, I don't know,
in the middle of
Utah or something,
Egypt somewhere. There's another place on a different continent. There's religious groups that if you don't pray to their God their way, they don't want you. There's militant groups that if you don't sleep with a gun, they don't want you. Camelot is designed for all Americans, all races, all religions, all political opinions, and I can explain why a little later how I can make that all work.
Okay, yeah, it's just a basic idea. If you have questions or comments, I can tell you this. Stick around, because when we come back in the next segment, he's brought a model. This isn't built yet, okay? It's a concept idea right now, and it's in the process of moving forward, but we'll show you that model when we come back. And we'll take some of your phone calls. If you're on hold there, tell me, what do you fear? Do you think he's paranoid? Or do you think, hey, nothing wrong with a little of insurance? We'll get into that when we come back right after this.